Welcome back to the channel, Warriors. We are still growing. We got a special guest today. This is something that hasn't been done on that Prison Guard channel yet. Alright, I got somebody on the line that was actually at the time incarcerated on the yard that I was on, Delta Yard, right? He's now a thriving member of society, and he's going to introduce himself. Go ahead, man.
How you doing, followers? My name's Sean Justice. I am a retired inmate. Did about 20 years altogether, 21. And the last stretch, I did 15 years, 1 month, and paroled 2 years ago, March 2021.
Hey, Justice, so you were telling me, dude, that you had 4 terms under your belt, right? Talk about how you initially got there and what happened that prolonged your stay.
Initially, I went to prison the first time on what's called a joint suspension for stupid fighting and, little things like that they tend to call ADW, GBI likely, which is like fighting with no weapon when you really beat the person up. Turned that into a few little terms: possession of a gun, robbery, kidnapping, carjacking, torture, all that stuff. And while I was there on that 8-year term, I took a man's life in prison at CRC and went to trial and went through a lengthy trial. And I didn't get on the stand or none of that. And I ended up with 4 years, doubled up 2 prison priors on top of the 8 I was already doing for involuntary manslaughter.
So that incident that happened, were you acting on orders for that, or was it kind of like common knowledge?
It's common knowledge as well. The order at that particular time, it's just kind of common knowledge, and I was kind of the person that was in charge of that particular building, and when it went south, like the people that were supposed to do what they needed to do didn't want to do it. I ended up swinging on the guy and landing the punch, and that was the end of that. Like, he went down and tried to pick him up, and he was just out, mumbling. And 5 days later, they took him off life support and pulled me back out of the hole and charged me with first-degree murder.
Now, is it safe to say that that individual did not have good paperwork?
Yes.
So that guy was deemed no good, correct?
Yes.
And you were doing what you had been taught and established and grown up in the system, like, hey, this is what needs to be done.
Yeah, it's kind of like just unwritten laws in the system within for the whites for sure, but I know other factions is probably the Southerners as well. Is just that you learn these rules. Like, people like to joke and say, I've seen a comment on your streams about no shower shoes in the day room, and I laugh because it's like no one can call you the B word or a punk or other words. They're not accepted. You can't be called that without taking flight on the person due to it's a rule, but no one can tell you who made these rules up. Like, they just appeared one day in prison.
Right.
So me later in life figured, like, look at it, I was being this crazy ass little follower, dude, that I think I'm not, but I'm actually following. I think that I'm this guy, and I'm following some stupid rules that were never even. You can't tell who set these rules,
Right.
And so here I ended up potentially being in prison for life.
So you smashed this dude, right? And you go to the hole. They probably locked you up for what? Battery with SBI at the time?
In the beginning, it was under investigation, and then my lockup order changed to assault. My actual shoe term paperwork, I have it around here somewhere. I kept it to keep me humble. It was assault, and the shoe was for manslaughter / murder, 26 months.
When that lieutenant came up to your door and said, "Hey, man, that guy died," what went through your head?
Oh man, I was like, it was conflicting. It's kind of like you handle your business, and on your way you're trying to make your way to the top. Like back at that time, it wasn't happening much, especially at Chino. There was a guard that was killed at that time at Chino, so it was a lot of restriction on our movement and everything we did. And then I boiled over to CRC as well, even being level 2, but a lot of that wasn't happening. I've had cops at my door like, "Hey, you're that guy," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, dude," because I wasn't convicted of anything yet. But now that after my conviction, there's no double jeopardy laws in California to where, I was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. That's what I did, basically.
Right. So, damn, dude. Were you? So you said, yeah, you were kind of like, I did this, right? I'm trying to make a name for myself. Was there a certain position you were trying to attain, or you were just trying to climb up the food chain?
I was trying to climb up the food chain. I belong to. Later, I got validated to street gang. They tried to validate me prison gang, Nazi lowriders. Didn't really pan out due to after that happened, and I went to court trial. They sent me to Delano. That's where you go for new cases. And I kind of was being bounced around. My property went one way, and I went another way. And they told me when I got back by CRC, the CO that worked R&R was one of the ones that was in my trial. I can't remember his name. They called my name to get off the bus, and he was like, "Yeah, right. Fuck you. Sit down, dude. You ain't gonna see your shit. You ain't gonna see a house like a regular house for some time to come." And I was like, "Man, I did you a favor. Basically, you got days off to come to court, dude, to kick back,
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, whatever, dude." And I went on a little mission and bounced around Ironwood, one side, like I said, one side of the state to the other. Went to Ironwood. They let me back out in the line there, level 3, and they were like, "Oh, you got this pending case for something that I was in when I was in on that shoe. Got caught with a weapon," and they were like, "Get this pending case." And they sent me to the hole, and they sent me up to High Desert. And then from High Desert, I was there about a year, and then down to Kern Valley. And that was, at that time, I kind of deemed it was when they were changing everything over, because your C file, and as you share in one of your videos, they're big. Mine was particularly big. And stuff was lost in all my transfer,
Yeah.
So they catch back up with me, and they end up putting me on this 180 at Kern Valley and find me guilty and do all that good stuff. And until later, when I learned the process of 602s, I was able to get some points down and I started acting right and was able to get to Donovan.
So let me ask you this. Amongst your peers, the fellow Woods, did you make a name for yourself? Did you accomplish that? Did they know who you were and what you had done?
Yeah. Everyone knew my particular gang. A lot of people, Chino, especially since I come through there, a lot of the homies, they knew who I was. I don't mind sharing what gang I was from. I was from a gang called the Lads, and out here on the streets, and we had a little bit of a presence, but we didn't really care too much about the higher ups. We were like pirates in a way. We just kind of took what we wanted, did what we wanted. We got in a little trouble here and there and got ourselves out, but I was trying to move up, as always.
Yeah.
Just like in your life and working, you're trying to move up. Like in your job, you moved up, you became a lieutenant. You found out that, hey, this is kind of like the end of the road of what I could do as a man,
Right.
And that's where I got.
No, I hear you, man. And I do see similarities, man. That's what was tripping me out towards the end, man. realizing that I myself was just being used. When you talk to me about Kern Valley 180, man, what kind of stuff did you see there? Anything that stood out? Because I know I never worked the 180. I've only heard about the violence.
Kern Valley 180 main line was pretty crazy. A couple of riots, pretty crazy, but they kind of restricted your movement to a building, like your building. When I first got there, let me take that back. When I first got there, it was 2 buildings. It would be 1 through 4 on the lower yard, 5 through 8 on the upper yard, and you would go out, say, Building 6 and Building 8, Building 5 and Building 7. The only way you're coming out of another building is if it's your RDO, if you have a job and it's your regular day off, you get yard all day. But yeah, there was some pretty big riots, Southerners and blacks there. Maybe 2012, 2011, I was on the yard a few times when it happened, but more so like, not my yard, but the D yard was pretty bad with, cops smashing on people. But, they were being attacked as well. So, I mean, I understand it. I never had a problem against the cops beating up on nobody due to some of the people that were attacking cops when it happened, so you have that covered. You gotta respect that as a man. If you're gonna go attack a cop, you better expect a whooping.
Yeah, within reason, yes, I agree.
Within reason,
right.
There wasn't a lot of OGs there, for to say, as in other prisons I was at, like High Desert. It was really crazy too. I seen some crazy shit there too. But level 2, CRC level 2, that yard, it gets pretty crazy too. But it's still 180s that takes the cake when it comes to like seeing weapons and the lengths that people go to get the weapon to use it. It was mind blowing. I talked about it with my wife and my older kids that are young adults, and they're just like, man, that's crazy.
So you mean to tell me that these metal detectors, the stand-up metal detectors, the wands, that no matter we have all this contraptions, it's still going to happen?
If I needed to get something past it, I knew how to, yes.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because we patted down a whole yard one time at Charlie Yard Centinela, and there was still a stabbing with the whites. We patted down every single inmate, man. Not more than 30 minutes, they fucking did what they did.
Not to take a side for my own people. I'm proud of who I am. I don't really trip on color anymore. The whites were pretty good when it came to gadgeting certain ways to get what you needed to get done. You're really good about handling their business.
Yeah, I haven't said it yet on this channel, but for the viewers out there, the white inmate population by far made the best weapons. All right, that's not a takeaway from any other race or their weapons or any less deadlier. The whites' weapons were just fucking like manufactured like it looks like a kitchen knife or a butcher knife. Did you ever handle one, or did one cross through your hand? You had to push it or pass it, hold it?
Oh, numerous times. I've made numerous, and yeah, I was a warrior for my people. I put in mine.
What was the mindset? Now, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Looking back now as a man, I do not. I wish I didn't learn those things, and I wish I didn't have to sit and live with the heartache that I've affected people and their family. Like, there's not just one victim in anything. There's always numerous. You victimize numerous people. People's families don't even know who you are, and you victimize, say, their son or their brother. And so I wish that I'd never learned any of that stuff, and it's taking me a long time. I believe I started changing when I worked for you in the program office. I started changing. when I was your porter there, I started my change of the way I looked at things.
Let's so you were at Chino, you were at CRC, you were at Kern Valley, and then High Desert. For the most part, we're gonna say structured, right? Those prisons were structured, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then you land at RJD, man. What if you walk me through what yards you had hit there at RJD and what went through your head when you started seeing everything?
I was on D yard my whole, I believe, 4 or more years that I was there, and I got in a few scuffles, little fights. I got into a fight during the downtime when I worked in the program office and got in trouble. I can't remember, but the other lieutenant, you know who I'm talking about, that worked second watch,
yeah,
Monday through Friday.
Yeah,
He so pissed at me for that. But other than that, I kind of, and that incident that we spoke about on your channel.
Yeah, we'll get to that, man.
That was like the only things I got into there, really. But I was a drug addict there for a long time. There was a lot there. I watched people overdose. My cellie overdosed. Man, I had problems with officers there to the point to where they had me telling them, you know, F you, let's handle it right now. What's up? And you knew me. And that's not my style, especially with the COs. I always did what I was told to do or asked to do. And that place is just structure is messed up from top to bottom. And I was the vice chairman of the MAC on that yard and attended meetings with wardens and captains, and it was fluff every time. Bullshit.
Yeah, I forgot about that, man. You were a MAC rep. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was. I got voted in.
Did you realize that it was bullshit from the start, or did it take a lot of broken false promises for you to gather what was going on?
I kind of knew a little bit because, you know, stores messed up there. You, like, if you're not first round like me, you weren't going to get all your shit. All the programs were messed up there. All the 180s, you have way more college access. You have way more access to programs. And I got there. I started off with the CGA program. I did, you know, I graduated that. I spoke in the graduation ceremony of CGA. I was in the Kairos. I was in AA. I was in all kinds of programs there. And I was shot down every time I tried to start. Even mail-out ones like Gogi, we would try to start them. I was shot down every time. And I just, from the staff, the guy that ran the food cells, that guy that we dealt with as Mac.
Yeah.
Even him, like, man, it was like pulling teeth to get him. Like, we're getting funding and everything. Like, I tried to get softball equipment in when we played the softball games because that was my thing on that yard. I was one of the best players on the yard. And I couldn't get, and I offered. I had money. My grandmother died. I was there, and I had money, and was like, "Hey, I'll send it all in." And I could not. There's no way. I couldn't even know I was in the process the right way. There's no way I can get it done.
What year did you touch down at Delta Yard, RJD?
16, I think, 17.
Were you there when that white inmate tied the weapon to his hand and stabbed the officer in Building 17?
No, I came after that.
Yeah, I was a brand new sergeant right there, man. It was nuts. That's how I started off the career there.
In my day, I seen when Donovan was reception on that yard. I seen an inmate on the pull-up bar. You may have heard of this incident. It went right through his neck on the pull-up bar, and they ran and tried to throw it. He went on top of Building 18. I was there when that one happened. It was a pretty crazy one. I've seen a lot of.
The dude died?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of falsified issues there by people. You speak on it in some of your channels too, like inmates just acting up, being disruptive, and then all of a sudden the staff kicked my ass, and then they never did.
So you said you saw inmates making false allegations on the officers?
Oh, many a times. There's lots of them there. You were probably someone that dealt with some of those RVRs and some of those investigations.
Man, I mean, I appreciate you for saying that. You know what I mean? Hey, guys, I didn't, like, coax him to say this or coerce him, but, yeah, he's telling you like it is, man. This is something we dealt with. We dealt with this at RJD a lot. The inmates making frivolous allegations on the cops until we got the body-worn cameras. And then they would book us for cussing on camera, right? So, how many times did you guys get inmates that came over from Charlie Yard trying to bring their BS over to D Yard?
Oh, man. Charlie Yard was the worst, man. And what's crazy is I get a lot of the stories now because my cellie, at the time that incident happened,
yeah,
with where you pulled me in the cages,
yeah,
I seen him on Thanksgiving. Him and his wife came to my house. He lives in New Mexico. He's doing really good too. And we talk about that, and we're like, that's the worst place we've ever been. And we both were at Kern Valley cellies for a long time before he showed up there. But I can speak to the one thing that stood out to me. And there was a lot of COs I was cool with. I can't remember. There was one in particular. I'm trying to remember his name so I can maybe catch up with him. But I've always remembered Lieutenant Bravo's name. And Lieutenant Bravo always had that old school laid back demeanor. And the day I met him, I was on the ground. Another incident was happening, and he said, "Bring that big ass white boy in too." And I kept my mouth shut.
Walk us through that from the start, man. We'll go ahead and right into that story.
So I'm in the chow hall, and me and my cellie were eating, and we normally never leave each other. As you know, you try not to do that, so that you have someone have your back. And I walk out of the chow hall, and these dudes are jumping this other dude who I knew them all as basically, not to be disrespectful, but like they were like lames, you know, like I'm not worried about them. I was laughing at what they were doing. Like, look at this kid, he beat this little guy up.
Right.
And then the yard went down. So I got down. And when the cops came, everyone's there, they sit still, and then Lieutenant Bravo shows up, and he's like, this guy. And you know what? Take this big ass white boy right here too. And I was about 250, about the same size I am now, about 250. And I get to the program office, I get to the cages. Right after I leave in cuffs, my cellie sees me walk by, and then sees another inmate walk by in cuffs, and he comes out of the chow hall and starts taking a flight on this dude who's being escorted by the COs in handcuffs with their hand on his elbow and their sticks out. And my cellie proceeded to beat him up, and he proceeded to get apprehended by the nightsticks and everything. And he wasn't tripping. And when he gets to the cages, he's like, yeah, he tells him, yeah, mother, you know what? You messed with the wrong white boys today, this and that. And I'm like, hey, cellie, I had nothing to do with that. And he's like, what? Oh, man. And then Lieutenant Bravo came to my cage, and the first thing out of my mouth, I'm going to try to say it, dumb it down a little bit so that I'm not, like, being disrespectful, but I said, that particular people, they don't tell me what to do. Like, I would handle my business, and they try to tell me what I have to do. And I was clean, and Lieutenant Bravo got me escorted back to my cell, and because I wasn't involved in the incident. And my cellie got taken to the hole, and I don't think you knew about this, LT, but I was approached by the staff later before they let my cellie come back, and they said, you know, and I knew these officers to be maybe not green wall guys or whatever, and I heard that term, I never really bumped into that, but like, they'll hook you up. If you fuck with them, they'll hook you up. They'll put something on you, and then get you for assault on staff. You'll never go home, you know, if you mess with these particular guys. So they said, hey, we're going to have a problem. You cellie comes back. We know you guys. We know you in this yard. You guys would retaliate. And I said, no, man, we don't give a crap about that. Like, if you do something like that, you should expect to get a little, treatment. And they were like, "All right, man, I got your word." I'm like, "You got my word." And they brought him back, and he ended up going to Charlie Yard, but we're still in contact. He's still a good friend of mine. He's out doing good too.
What do you say? Yeah, that was man. As you can see from like our perspective, we just seen a bunch of dudes fighting. A dude charge out of the chow hall, take flight on another guy with handcuffs on. It was just like, man. I think I even called it Code 2 just because I thought it was. I'm used to the whole Centinela thing, man. Mexican and white thing. That's what I'm used to, and yeah, dude, that's a trip to hear from your side. So your Sally tells you when he goes to Charlie Yard, like, hey, man, it's all screwed up over there. It's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. He's fighting COs that would work my building and his building in C Yard, who they ended up, he's a good guy beyond if he got messed with, he'll handle business. And they respected that. They gave him a job over there, tried to help him, but you still get into crap over there. He was in numerous fights, and lost time, got it back, and he got out before me, actually, but not too long, maybe like 6-8 months before me. And he said it was just off the hook over there, like crazy.
Yeah, man, they would come over. The inmates would come over to Delta Yard, and like I'm sure you've seen, we had a lot of OG cops that had been around the block and knew how to conduct themselves. So they would run into problems when they tried pulling their stunts over on Delta Yard.
Numerous OG staff on D Yard, yes, I would say that lower management staff, COs and sergeant and management, like you. Out of all the lieutenants, Lieutenant Bravo was the most respectful, the most down to earth, the most, I won't say understanding because it sounds like soft, but like he did listen to your side of the story and was fair. Everything he says on his channel is what got me. When I didn't even know it was him at first. I'm looking at this. I watch a lot of prison stuff because it keeps me humble. And I've seen this guy with American flag on his hat, American flag in the background, and that's what I'm all about.
That's right.
I'm watching, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I know this dude. That's Bravo. And then I seen the name on there. Besides that prison guard, I seen Lieutenant Hector Bravo.
Yeah.
So I was watching, and then it remembered. I was telling my wife, and that this guy was like, you were part of. I learned from you things, or relearned, I should say, that it sparked a flame in me to re-understand as a man that you got to have integrity, respect, loyalty, honor, and respect your elders, respect people in authority, all those things I had to relearn. And it started with some of the conversations that I had with yourself. And believe it or not, there was another sergeant who was real goofy on second watch. I won't say his name, but he was a real goofy cat. And in downtime, talking with him too, he was a real respectful guy and taught me a lot. Working in the program office was probably the best job I had. HFM was a good job, but there was a lot of crap going on there too, drama. But working in the yard program office was some of the best times I had in prison.
So elaborate more on that, man. You had been in the prison system. You had risen through certain ranks. You made a name for yourself, and now you got a job in the program office, and now you're working around professionals, right? Professionals and respectful individuals. What did you take from that?
I've always had a work ethic, knowing that I wasn't really a drug dealer or like anything like that, but when I was running the streets, I would take what I wanted, or that's how I dealt with things then. But I still kept my job. I still worked. So for years, being on a higher level and being always in trouble, you don't get that luxury of being able to work for your little bit of money, and some computer skills, some typing skills, paperwork skills. I already knew waxing floors and all that good stuff, but I've learned, like I said, I've learned those qualities in life that you need as a man. Most COs come from military background, the majority of them. And even if they don't, they pick it up from their coworkers. And it's just the way a lot of them, they carry themselves. You know, there's a list of names I won't throw out there, but I mean, there's a list of names. They knew who they are. That was on that yard that were really good individuals. Who there's a CO there that, you know, he never did nothing for me. I never asked for none of that. He never gave me any extras. But when we would chop it up, it was like he was my best friend on the yard. Because we're men, we talk about, you know, dirt bikes. You know, back when I was able to, well, even before, I haven't had my gun rights in a long time, but I do love to go shooting.
Right.
And we would talk about that, hunting, shooting, fishing, and no one's talking about that inside, especially on D-Yard. They're talking about, you know, a quarter gram for $50 or whatever it may be, or if you give me 2 creamers and a case of soups, I'll give you this. Like, I didn't have time for that anymore.
Right. What message would you have for those still incarcerated that maybe have an L life sentence and you see how they're just paroling left and right? They are getting action. What kind of message would you give to them as far as hope?
Actually, great message. I have 2 friends that are, one is very successful lifer. They got out a little before me, and another friend that is mildly successful. They're older homeboys of mine who are now out too, and we work together time to time. It can happen. You can get out if you put your mind to it and you change the way you think and the way you do things. You can get up out of there and you can change your life and become, you know, mildly successful. Like, you know, I'm middle class. You know, I make good money. I go to work Monday through Friday. I'm married. I have a brand new car. I pay a lot for it, but it's okay. I don't have to worry about car falling apart. I have a good home, kids. We do all that, you know, and you get that when you change. Good things happen to those who do good things.
Hey, Justice, being out of prison is success, man. Just not being in prison is the definition of success, man. And yeah, and I heard you lay out all these things, right? All these material things, and I'm actually proud of you, man, for accomplishing that. But more so is that message that we both preach now is that mindset, man, that honor, that integrity, that loyalty, right? You're a thriving member of society, man. No matter which way you cut it.
Yeah, I've never had a home in my name. I never had bills in my name until this time. I never filed like paperwork and say, you know, married, you know.
Yeah.
None of that stuff I never did. Like, I never bought a new car. I never knew what gap coverage was until I bought a new car.
Right.
Most people don't know what that is because they don't have a new car. But when you go buy a new car, gap coverage is an essential thing. And if you don't know about it, you will say, I don't need to pay that extra $25 a month or whatever it is. But it's an essential thing that you won't learn if you're busy worrying about soups and dope and, you know, whacking this fool for doing that or whatever. You know, all that kind of stuff it's not to take from any of those guys that want to live like that, because a lot of them guys, you know, they're with the business. They mean business. But that is not the way life should be lived behind bars. You shouldn't be living life behind bars. You should be living life flourishing out here, learning, finding things such as that prison guard channel, and learn leadership skills and learn empathy, loyalty. People don't even know what empathy is. They're like, yeah, I know what it means. They don't even know what it is. But you got to learn it.
Hell yeah, dude. That's gold right there, man. Is there anything else you would like to share with the viewers that you haven't touched on before we wrap it up?
Not really, besides, just like I've been saying, you know, that those things, those lessons in a man's life of honor, loyalty, respect, empathy.
That's it, dude. That's all the basic. Oh, go ahead.
I was 20-something year heroin addict, and I've been clean coming up on 3 years. I don't drink. I don't smoke weed. I don't do none of that. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. You just got to put your mind to it and put in that work.
Hell yeah, dude. The right kind of work. All right, dude. I'm going to close out on the video, but stay on the line, dude.
All right.
Hey, there you guys have it. You heard it from the horse's mouth. Somebody that worked with me, right, in the program office, was at RJD. His perspective, everything, his triumph, tribulations, and the growth of a man, right? He already had those values, right? Now he's just putting them into practice. Keep pushing forward.